Hello there, so music is basically a combination of notes, and notes have two factors, pitch and time. In our last video we discussed the former, learning how to represent certain sounds and pitches with certain notes. So now that we know what notes to put, it's time to learn the when. One thing I would like for you to keep in mind is that rhythm makes more sense and is easier to explain if you have some knowledge of music theory or if you play an instrument, especially drums. If you don't, then it's okay, I'll explain what you need to know later on in this video. Since Taiko is based on a percussion instrument, rhythm carries a lot more weight compared to other rhythm games. Because of that, Taiko has a very different rhythm compared to other game modes. Osu Standard has a rhythm that is less dense but is more constant. Maps are mostly a constant stream of notes with little to no breaks, while Taiko has rhythm that is more dense but less constant. Notes come in like groups or batches with some breaks in between. This, in my opinion, is what separates Taiko from other game modes. Rhythm is a lot more dynamic, interesting, and fun to play. So let's talk about terms and concepts of rhythm that you'll need to know. The first one is a beat. A beat is the most basic unit of rhythm. Beats are represented by white ticks in the editor timeline. The number of beats in a song is determined by the song's BPM or beats per minute. The faster the song, the higher the BPM value and the number of beats. A bar is basically 4 beats. A bar doesn't really matter in other game modes, but for Taiko they matter a lot because every new bar is represented by a bar line during gameplay. Bars are represented by the big white ticks in the editor's timeline. Now let's go back to beats. Since beats are the most basic unit of rhythm, we can divide them to get faster or shorter rhythms. By using the beat snap divisor on the top right, we can divide beats by half, by a third, by a quarter, by a sixth, by an eighth, etc, etc. When discussing rhythm in Taiko, in my opinion, the first thing that comes to mind should be tuplets. Why? Because tuplets are king. What are tuplets, you may ask? In Taiko, we refer to tuplets as basically a group of notes. There are doublets, which are basically a pair of notes, triplets, which are 3 notes, quadruplets, which are 4, quintuplet 5, sextuplet 6, septuplet 7, and so on and so forth. Now, tuplets can be snapped in many ways. You can have tuplets snapped to 1/2, a quarter, a third, etc, etc. Because of this, you can have tuplets inside of other tuplets. For example, a 1/4 triplet inside a 1/2 quintuplet. Now, it's very important to note that each difficulty in Taiko is suited to specific kinds of rhythms, or more specifically, snappings. Kantan is suited for 1/1 rhythms and 2/1 rhythms. 1/2 rhythms are basically never used unless the BPM is low enough, which would make these rhythms easier. Futsu is more suited to 1/2, 1/1, and 2/1 rhythms. Muzukashi is more suited to occasional 1/4 rhythms with triplets and 1/2 and 1/1 rhythms. Oni is more suited for harder and more frequent 1/4 rhythms as well as 1/2 rhythms. And Inner Oni and above is suited for even harder and even more frequent 1/4 rhythms and 1/2 rhythms. Another thing that distinguishes each difficulty is their breaks. I won't go too in depth in this because this definitely deserves a video onto itself, but basically, breaks are a brief period in time in which no notes or objects like spinners or sliders are played. The rule of thumb is, the easier the difficulty, the longer the breaks are. And that's pretty much it for the basics of rhythm. Rhythm is a lot more complicated than this, but the basics are actually pretty simple. Just like I mentioned in the previous video, it's important to note that, again, this is just the very basics. Rhythm has a ton of factors such as what instrument you're focusing on, the difficulty, emphasis, intensity, etc, etc, which I will cover in a future video. Now, apologies that this video took a while. I've been kinda busy with this whole Beep Nap Nominator thing, but I'll definitely try and make these more frequent. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video, which I'm not sure what it's going to be about since I have several things in mind and I'm not sure what would be the best order to do them, but still, they're coming.